their dog as well. So they're off to a wedding.
Yeah.
The kids, yeah.
The little fellow will stop at your place.
Oh yeah, a couple of nights.
Oh, good.
I'm sure they'll be missing him after,
I'll bet you they
48
will,
hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my little two grandkids are stopping with me on Sunday night as well, because their mum's got to start at work really early on Monday morning, so they'll be there. I'll shout them fish and chips and.
It's lovely being a grandy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
We'll have a little party. Unfortunately, there are a couple of showers about the place on the weekend, so.
Yeah.
So what's happening health-wise?
Well, this month is, people have probably heard about it. It's been basically Bowel Cancer Awareness Month in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And last week was the Red Apple Day, which is sort of trying to get people to eat an apple a day for their bowel health.
Mm-hmm.
So there's for a start, did you know that the apples were any good for the bowels?
No.
No. So it's
like apple juice.
Yep. Yeah, not quite the same.
Not quite the same.
Not quite the same.
The apple itself.
The apple itself, because it's got heaps of pectin. Okay. So pectin and other substances that sop up toxins. Okay. So, for example, I had an old naturopath many years ago who, for like 30 years, his main way of stopping people from wanting cigarettes was to give them nothing but sunflower. They had to have nothing but sunflower seeds and apples for a minimum of 3 to 7 days. And the combination of them, there's something about the essential fats that were in the sunflower seeds and the pectins in the apples that sop up the nicotine and help to get it out of the bloodstream faster, so that it started to help to quench the cravings, which was sort of interesting. That was just an old...
Okay, so a question for you here. Not only are you the naturopath, but you're the chef in the kitchen. Okay, so if you make stewed apples, does that destroy pectin?
No, not at all.
So why are other...
No, in fact, they add pectin, so you watch MasterChef and that sort of thing. They sort of add pectin as something to help to make it gelatinized, make it thicker and...
Gelatinized.
Well, it's not really gelatin, obviously, but you know what I mean? It sort of makes it thicker and... Yes. Yeah. So it does. It's a sopper-upper effect.
So obviously, you just said before that apple juice loses a bit of the pectin.
Well, it's not quite the same, because when you're making the juice, you're losing all of the fibre, and the fibre is a big part of the detoxification process. And you can imagine when you're having a glass of apple juice, it's really the juice of about 5 or 6 apples. It's not the same as having an apple.
All the fibrous parts.
That's right. So that tends to be gone. So there's a lot of nutrient. And of course, the big thing with apples these days, and people probably hear about this all the time, the ones that you've got to wash them when you get them home. They've got up to 30 layers on them to make them pretty and shiny in the shops. So layers of wax and other things that just are not as fabulous as they could be for us.
And we're ingesting all those things, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's sort of, that's just... And the other good thing about apples is it actually sops up uric acid. So, people with gout or who get joint pain and all sorts of things, like the whole apple a day, it's one of those things long term that if people like apples, just have it as part of your world, because it's got so many health benefits that other things, every fruit and veggie have different health benefits, but apples are a good one, and certainly it's the way that they're advertising Bowel Awareness Month.
Skin on, skin off?
Skin on, skin off? Well, once again, that would be to do with the toxins.
Okay.
So people who do choose to peel them, it's because they want to take that layer of toxins off the same way they might with, say, potatoes or something like that. So potatoes is in the Dirty Dozen. So there's a lot of pesticides in the skin of potatoes.
Okay.
It's such a bummer, it's... Yeah, it makes me really frustrated the more I think about what we're doing to our world and our food and our environment.
But you can't get frustrated.
We just have to, do all the good things.
So, Bowel Awareness Month.
Yeah, so I'm sure people are really aware of this, but, there are so many clients that come to me, and don't forget, I've got naturally oriented clients, so a lot of my clients are used to looking at their poops.
Okay.
But when people come to me and they've been seeing doctors for years and it's the first time, they're not used to doing it. And honestly, let's face it, when you're looking at bowel health, if you're not looking at your poos, you don't know what's going on.
Right, okay, great.
Well, can I ask, do you?
Oh, no. Madonna, you don't ask me that stuff. Put the microphone on here.
Yeah, well, it's sort of interesting because really from a health perspective, every type of poop means something different. So if they are long and stringy and skinny, that's not a good sign. If they're like little sheep poops, not a good sign. There's something called a Bristol stool chart that's been around forever, and basically it gives the perfect stool and then compares it to all sorts of other little things. So that's something that people can look up and sort of check out. And even precursors to bowel cancers can be things that people know that they've got wrong. Things like, all the usuals: bloating, burping, belching, wind, flatulence, diarrhoea, constipation. So things like IBS and ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, they can all be precursors to bowel health if they're not looking after their health. Okay. So really, as always, what are we doing from the pro-health perspective? It's one thing being on the medications to sort of get things under control, but there's so much more that can be done. So if, for example, and I know it's a yucky topic, but, this is the second highest killer in Australia when it comes to cancers. We're not talking small stuff here, and this is something that, let's face it, we all should be doing every single day. 1 to 3 times. That's how often we should be going to the toilet.
Spend more time with your head in the toilet, won't you?
Take a video of it for me. Actually, I must tell a funny story. I did have a kid with ulcerative colitis, and his mum actually brought in a photo of his poop one day just for fun. I'm like, really? But I'm a naturopath. I'm like, yeah, show me.
Now, listen, let's move just along a little bit from that.
Along a little bit.
Okay, it's Bowel Awareness Month. So
yes.
You mentioned before the Dirty Dozen.
Yes.
Something about the Dirty Dozen.
Yes.
You want to have a sip of your tea while I talk? You have a little sip of your tea. The Dirty Dozen, I always thought was a movie with Lee Marvin, but obviously it's not. You wouldn't know, you're too young.
I know that movie. We watched it a few months ago, actually.
Really?
Yeah, we did.
So you mentioned Dirty Dozen. Okay,
yes.
Just explain that a bit.
So people can Google Dirty Dozen and Clean 15. So in many countries, and certainly America and Australia, each year or two they put out a list of the Clean 15, so the fruits and veggies that have the least amount of pesticides and toxic chemicals on them, compared to the Dirty Dozen, which by weight have the most.
Okay.
So once again, I know people often complain that they can't afford to buy organic and that sort of thing, but following these two lists can at least, at least thinking about the Dirty Dozen, those things, if you actually do try to buy organically or eat less of or have more of the Clean 15, then you're going to be getting your health into a bit of a better. And you can imagine the Clean 15, they are the ones with the least, so you don't need to buy them organic. That's why they're given that fabulous title. Okay. Yeah, because when we're looking at things like cancers, my first really amazing experience with cancer was going back about 15 years ago. I went to New York and I heard a couple of the world's leading toxicologists, and I can't remember their names, but they were really quite phenomenal. They've written like a dozen books between them, but they were talking at the time about how toxins change the cells and allow the cells to go awry, do what they're not supposed to do, because cancer cells are just cells in our body that have gone awry, and certainly at the time, and I don't know what scientists think about it these days, but certainly at the time they were saying that everyone in the world makes at least 1,000 cancer cells a day, and it's up to our immune system to clean them up. So if you think about that, and once again, that's 15 years ago, we know that there's more chemicals, more toxins, more challenges these days health-wise. So really, like we've been chatting about the last weeks, it's not about taking ourselves out of the environment, which we can't. It's about looking at what we can do. It's about drinking purified water. It's about eating your greens. It's about making sure you choose the least toxic fruit and veggies when you're not buying organic. It's about choosing the farmers markets if you have one close to you, so that you're getting it straight off the land rather than having been in storage for 3, 6, 12 months.
And you break out every now and then by going to fish and chips?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so there's sort of like a 90-10 rule or an 80-20 rule, where what you do, 80-90% of the time is what's going to impact on your health. Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. It's when people are doing it, and this is what we do in Australia a lot of the time, we think we're eating healthy, but we can actually be having that impact 3-4 times a day. So that's a real challenge. So yeah, but the signs that people need to be looking at, it is any of those bowel change signs. And of course, once we're 50, we're recommended to have those colonoscopies every so often.
I'm just laughing.
Can I ask, have you ever had one?
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
no,
right.
I haven't. No, I was just laughing. Turn off the TV, folks. Go and lift up the lid. There's a great show on down there. Now, listen, get off the poop train.
Off the poop train.
Very quickly, because we just want to talk about what happened during the week.
Yes.
Barry Gibb was knighted.
Wow, that's fabulous. No, I did not.
So he's now Sir Barry Gibb, along with Sir Bob Geldof, Sir Rod Stewart, who else is up? There's heaps of them.
Wow.
Sir Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever used
Paul
them.
McCartney.
Paul McCartney, there's another one. Yeah,
Yep.
there's so many. Anyway, he was knighted, I think it was on Tuesday. Prince Charles did the dubbing.
Aww.
Yeah, at Buckingham Palace.
Yep.
And I think there was a few little funny quips. I watched the film clip and he said, you may now rise, Sir Barry Gibb. And he said, I don't think I can.
Should have done it 20 years ago, huh?
So what we're going to do, we're going to have a little listen to a BG song, Madonna. So we'll get back onto the poo train a little bit later on. Here at
Absolutely.
Live and Local, just on 22 past 11.